and welcome to Spellbound Stitching, where I seek to weave a little magic into every twist, stitch and skein. My name is Kat, if we haven't met before, and if you're a returning viewer, welcome to my new series. So I posed the question in my last podcast episode, if anybody would like to have an in-between video, since I only do a full podcast once a month. I suggested maybe I do something in between, so I'm going to call this series a little off topic, because it's not going to follow the traditional format of my podcast. It's going to be other things that I would like to talk about that are outside the format of my regular podcast. I will still tell you where you can find me, and that is on Ravelry. You can find me as Broomstitch. On Facebook and Instagram, I am Broomstitch NZ. You could visit my website at broomstitch.co.nz, or you can send me an email, info@broomstitch.co.nz, or simply put a comment below this video and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So for today, I thought I would go into a little bit of my knitting plans for 2026. So this was sort of inspired by Bibi from Just Another Knitting podcast, where she does 20 in whatever year it is, and she sets up 20 projects that she has shopped her stash and decided what she's going to make with the yarn that she's already got. So I thought I would do the same, and based on the number of things that I knit in 2025, which was 60 items, I've chosen to do this time 26 in 26. A lot of the yarn that I've purchased has been lined up for a project or created for a project. I've just not got there yet, so I've sort of prioritized my queue, and I'm going to actually try and stick to it. Considering that I knit 60 items last year, I don't think having 26 defined is restricting myself too much. I think that still gives me plenty of wiggle room if I want to create some more things throughout the year. However, my list does mostly consist of garments, so they're going to be some big knits. We'll see how we go. Set myself a little bit of a challenge, be a little bit more intentional with the projects that I'm choosing to take on, and shopping my stash first instead of always being tempted by all the beautiful yarns that you see in person and online. I will put a disclaimer there that I am still going to do some yarn shopping. It just probably won't be as much. So I hope that you've got a cup of tea. I've got myself some chamomile set aside here. You've got a lovely knitting project, and you're willing to come on this journey through what I plan to knit in 2026 with me. I've categorized them sort of by a group so that it's a little bit easier to follow. I will put all the links to Ravelry down below for the patterns, but I won't be putting links to the yarns because some of them are not available anymore, and some of them I just can't remember where I got them from. So if you are interested in a particular yarn, reach out and I'll see if I can find where I got it from, etc., and send you a link directly. So let's get into it. First things on my list, I'm going to start with cardigans. The format is I'm going to show you what I plan to knit, talk a little bit about the pattern. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I plan to obviously go further into them when I do my actual podcast episodes, and let you know what yarn I have chosen out of my stash to do. Now the first one up is the Millie cardigan by Irene Lynn of Irene Lynn Designs, and this one's a little bit cheeky because I haven't got any yarn to show you because it actually is already a finished object. So I had to make this because I wanted to wear it to my cousin's wedding that happened in the weekend, so this one's already done. So I can tick one off the list. But I used this lovely Sikkim skein from Happy Go Knitty that was the Woolfest colourway for 2025, and yeah, I've got some lovely buttons from my local yarn store, Thimbles and Thread, to go with it. I chose the silver because it goes with a little bit of sparkle that is in the cuffs. I ran out of the Sikkim to do the whole thing, so I ripped back the cuffs on both sleeves and I kept knitting the body a little bit more, and I actually added another yarn from Yeah Yeah Yarns that's got a little bit of sparkle in it that you can kind of see glinting there. But I thought it was a pretty good match. It's not too distinguishable from the other yarn. It doesn't have as much blue and it doesn't have the lighter colour in it, but that one's done. So that's the Millie cardigan. A little bit about this cardigan. The craft is obviously knitting. It is meant to be a DK or 8-ply fingering and lace held together pattern, but because the gauge is 25 stitches over 31 rows, I know that it looks reasonably good in fingering, so that's what I did. So I actually prefer the way this looks, although I think it would be lovely in a DK. I think it might be a bit hot, unless you were doing it in like a cotton linen, and that could be really nice. There's information on the screen about the yardage. Now it says you need 1,008 meters to complete this cardigan, but the skein of the Sikkim only had 480 meters, and I used 20 grams, I think, of the other colour from Yeah Yarns. So, I mean, depends on how long you want to make it, I guess. I made mine in the size 2, and it was fairly cropped because my intention is to wear it like a loose bolero over the top of dresses. So there is 8 sizes included in the pattern, and that goes from a 90 centimetre bust to 154, and it's intended to be worn with 5 centimetres of positive ease, which I did a little bit more, I think, but I really like how it's turned out, and I will go into more details about my knitting experience of that one on my actual podcast and post a photo of me wearing it so you can see what it looks like. But that one is done for 2026. The next cardigan up on my list is the Alicia Beth cardigan by Justina Lorkowska of Justina Knits, and the reason this cardigan has this name is it was actually named after the singer Pink. And if you saw my last episode, you might remember this yarn that I purchased in Queenstown, but I plan to make it in this charcoal or ink touch yarns that is a merino, possum and silk blend, and it is fingering weight. Because I want a neutral cardigan to go with anything and everything. I know working on dark yarn isn't going to be fun, but I do have a really good lamp that's behind me where I sit and work on my projects. And I sort of want this for autumn, so that might be started a little bit later on, but I think it would be a good layering piece for winter as well, underneath like a jacket or a blazer for work. So I have plenty of purple cardigans, but if they're slightly the wrong shade for what I'm wearing, I don't like mashing my purples too much, so I need something neutral. The plan is to make the Alicia Beth. I love the detail on the front of this one because I wanted something special, but not like over the top, and certainly not lace, because I didn't want the air or wind to get through it so easily. So it is done in a fingering and 4-ply weight yarn, so I'm using the recommended weight. It says you need 823 meters to 1,417 meters for this project. Now each of those is 400 meters on the skein. So I have roughly 1,200 meters, which means I could even make one of the bigger sizes. The gauge is 28 stitches over 36 rows on 3.25 and 3.5 millimeter needles. So it is going to be quite a long knit, being that there's so many stitches. I also think that I'm going to have to drop down, but I'll do a gauge swatch for this one because I want it to be a really fitted look. And there are 6 different sizes available in the pattern. It's recommended to be worn with 2 to 5 centimeters of negative ease. So it is intended to be a fitted cardigan, not a baby one. So that is the Alicia Beth. Now the next one I'm going to do is a little bit more of a fun one. You might be aware of the Jean cardigan, which is by Johanna Gerish, which is Calibri by Johanna, and she features this pattern in this beautiful white fluff yarn, but on her Instagram the other day she posted a really colourful version, which I've included a photo of off to the side, and I sort of went, I wanted to do a feather and fan with an advent that I got year before, 2024's advent, and I hadn't managed to find a pattern for it. So, excuse the crinkling, I'm going to do the Jean cardigan with my 2024 advent from Obsession Yarns. So that's the main skein. I haven't decided whether I'm going to put the colours in the feather and fan part or the colours in between like Johanna's got, but there's all the beautiful colours. Now this particular one was based on a ritual of life, which was the theme that Marie dyed these for, and it was all different ways to celebrate life. So I also haven't decided whether I'm going to hold it single or hold it double. I'll figure that out when I get to gauge swatching. Yeah, but this yarn, the composition of this one is 80% merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. So I wanted to do something really special with it. I knew I wanted it to be feather and fan. I just hadn't found the perfect pattern, and now I have. I hope. I have tried to do one of Johanna's patterns before, and I found it impossible to understand. So because I kind of already know what I'm doing with feather and fan, I'm hoping that this might go a little bit smoother, and I'm kind of using it as a little bit of a tester to see if I will be able to do some of her other more complicated patterns if I can understand her writing style a bit better. Like I have in mind, I would really like to do the pear sweater or maybe even the pear dress. But for now, the statistics on the jean cardigan, it is intended to be DK or 8 ply. The gauge is 22 stitches over 34 rows. Now she's held a lace and sport together, so I would either be doing this single, because you might be able to see it's actually really puffy, and just have a looser gauge, and I might make a longer cardigan, more like a duster, or I might hold it double and do a single and just see what the density of the fabric looks like. I don't know yet, I haven't decided. But I do plan to knit it in a fade so that it will move through the colours as intended. You might have noticed I've still got all the numbers on them so that I know which order they go in. So that's for the jean cardigan. It's showing there's only 4 sizes available, and that goes from 93 centimeters to 138 centimeters, so it's not particularly size inclusive, but it is meant to be worn with 2 to 12 centimeters of positive ease. Up next on my cardigans, this one's going to be a little bit of a challenge. It is the Waves by Victoria Fassbender. Disclaimer, please excuse if I pronounce any names wrong. I have looked them up and I am trying, but I still might get it wrong. But this pattern's only available in German. But I do plan to do it with my little mill over the hill that I got for Christmas, because I wanted something that was simple to show off the beautiful colours in this yarn. But I also wanted something that was a little bit special, because this is special yarn. And I think this cardigan's a really good balance of the two, with the beautiful diamond cable-like design over the front, and a little bit of purling inside each of the diamond shapes, which I think is just lovely. I also thought, because this is Corriedale and I guess technically a little more rustic, I thought it would be nice if it was a V-neck, so it wasn't up touching my neck, but it would be really warm outerwear. So that's probably more intended for a winter knit, but that's what I intend to do with my little mill over the hill. The details on that is it's intended to be knit in a DK 8 ply yarn, so I am doing the recommended. It says you only need 600 to 1000 meters, which suggests to me that it's quite a cropped design. And it's done on 2.5 and 3.5 millimeter needles. So I don't know, we'll see how that one goes. Gauge is 26 stitches and 32 rows. So to me it sounds like I'm going to need more than 600 meters, because that's only 3 skeins. It has sizes from 90 centimeters to 152 centimeters, and my plan is to, I've knitted patterns in other languages before and usually had success with running them through a translation program. So we'll see. It also says it is designed to be worn with 15 to 30 centimeters of positive ease, so it is intended to be quite big. I don't think I will go for quite so much positive ease, maybe more like 12 to 15. Just see what happens. So that one might be a challenge, but I'm really looking forward to it. So that's all the cardigans that I have planned for 2026. Next we can move on to sweaters, and I thought I would start with the one that is already in progress, which is the Awin sweater by Megan Babin. Now I am using Outlaw Yarn Darkness DK for this one, which is the colourway A King's Ransom. And I've already finished one sleeve, so I thought I'd show you that quickly, just as a reminder. And I'm on to the next sleeve. I had to swap doing this for the Millie cardigan so that I would have it ready in time for the cousin's wedding. It's intended to be done in a worsted yarn, but the darkness DK is quite fluffy, so I am managing to get away with just a DK. It says you need 1504 to 3223 meters to complete this pattern. I've got a whole lot of skeins in a bag over there. I didn't think you needed to see the entire bag. Just a sample would be good enough. And the gauge is 18 stitches and 29 rows. Now my gauge stitch wise is on point, my row gauge is off, and I don't really know how to fix that. So I'm just making some slight modifications, and because it is a pieced garment, I'm figuring we'll just get to the neckline and we'll figure out what we're doing then. It comes in 9 sizes from 87 to 171 centimeters across the chest, and it is intended to be a unisex pattern, so you could knit it for a male or feminine bodied person. With 4 centimeters of positive ease. I think the size that I'm knitting, size 2, is going to be just a little bit bigger than that, maybe more like 7 centimeters of positive ease, but that's how the person that I am knitting it for likes to wear their sweaters. So that is the A1. The next one is another Megan Babin pattern, and it is called Savin or Savin from Hudson and West Company. So this one I intend to knit for my dad. I have already knitted it for my dad, but it was too big, so I am re-knitting it for my dad. So the yarn that I intend to use is this one that I dyed up for him that he really liked, which is like a steely grey bluish colour on my traditional DK base. So again, it is DK, but you can see it's really puffy and it does work out just fine. I've knit the sweater before, so I know. I'm just going to go down a size and maybe even go down a needle size for him. So it's intended to be done on 3.5, 3.75 and 4.5s. I think I might knit it on 4s this time round. It fitted me perfectly well, but my dad's really skinny, so it didn't fit him quite as well. So now I know that on me it needs to be tight. Again, the gauge is 18 stitches, 29 rows. I knit it to pattern last time without making any modifications, which I think is one of the reasons it turned out so big, because my row gauge is off and the sleeves were long, like he had to roll them up. And there are 9 sizes again available, 87 to 171 centimeter bust. And this one's intended to be worn with 5 centimeters of positive ease. My dad doesn't like too much positive ease, so that's probably about what we're aiming for. I'm going to knit the size 1 this time because I knit a size 2 last time. And just see how we go. Maybe once I finish the sleeves, I will pin it on him and see if that's fitting better already. Like wash it and block it and pin it on him, just so I can get an understanding of how the rest of the sweater is going to turn out, because I do not want to knit this sweater for a 3rd time. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but they're a lot of work. It took me 5 weeks of solid knitting on it last time. So we'll see. I'm hoping to have that finished by his birthday in July. But I'll pick that one up after I've finished the A1, because we can't have 2 heavily cabled sweaters on the go at once. The next one on my list is for me, and it is the Sunray sweater by Jennifer Steingart, who is Knit Love Wool. And I plan to make it in this lovely John Arbon Textiles Yarnadelic yarn that I purchased from Unwind and Knit With Me in the colourway Hey Moon and Waltz. So Hey Moon is going to be my main colour. So it is a heathered yarn with lots of different shades of purples and greys and even a touch of yellow in there. There's so many colours in here. Oh, you can see them all. And this one is called Waltz, and I have made another sweater in this, and I had 1 whole skein and some left over. So that one's got like red and pink and blue in the purple. So they're beautiful heathered yarn. I haven't done one of Jen Steingart's patterns yet, but I love how she does the colourwork yoke and the colourwork on the wrist. So this one is done sport 4-ply, so this one's 336 meters on 100 grams, so that's roughly a sports weight. It says you need 1504 to 3438 meters of yarn, so I do have enough in the Hey Moon. Hopefully I've got enough in the Waltz as well. It's done on 3.25, 3.5 and 3.75 millimeter needles with a gauge of 22 stitches over 30 rows. There are 13 sizes available in the pattern, going from 91 centimeters to 167.5, and the sweater is intended to be worn with 5 centimeters or 2 inches of positive ease. So that is the Sunray sweater by Jennifer Steingass. The next one on my list was Cruising Ravelry, and I discovered this beautiful Lotus Lake by Anina Duty. And this is intended to be knit in some long dog yarns, merry and bright. So this was part of a Christmas order that I did, and I had a sweater lined up to do this one in, and then the week that I went to purchase the pattern, it had been discontinued about 2 weeks beforehand. So that came off my list, and I've been waiting for the perfect thing to come along since. And you can see it's got beautiful purple and red mashed together. So I wanted something that will, one, show off the colour, and two, just be a little bit special for some Christmas yarn. So maybe this could be a Christmas sweater, and I think the Lotus Lake pulls that off, with the mostly being stockinette, but having the beautiful detail of lace on the cuff and the bottom of the sweater. I plan to make mine in a reasonably fitted design, just so I can wear it by itself with nothing underneath it, maybe a camisole if it's a cooler day in summer, because it's summer right now and it's pouring with rain and it's cloudy and overcast outside, so that's not unheard of. But a little bit more about this pattern. It is a DK or 8-ply yarn, which I have. I've got, it says 900 to 2,140 meters. I've got 1,000 meters of this yarn, 4 millimeter needles, so the same needle the whole way around. I might see what happens when I get to the lace, because I do tend to knit a little bit looser with lace with the yarn over, so I might drop down to 3.75 for the lace. There are 12 sizes available, so very size inclusive, 84 to 165 centimeters. And it's intended to be worn with 7.5 to 12.5 centimeters of positive ease, but I think I might go more like 5. So that's going to be my Lotus Lake, Anina Duty. So that brings us to a close for sweaters. Blouses is the next category. Now, blouses is loosely used because it's sort of long sleeve tee blouses, that kind of vibe. Not necessarily a button-up shirt like I would traditionally associate a blouse with. But I sort of thought it's like a fancier long sleeve t-shirt in my opinion. But I'm looking forward to wearing a lot of these to work. So the first one on my intended to knit list is the Ponderosa by Will & Pine Designs. And I'm very excited about this one because I have some very special yarn from Dragon Horde Yarn. And the colorway is Hecate. She is a Greek goddess of the witches. And this one's been on my radar. The Ponderosa's been on my radar, but I've had this yarn for about 3 years now, and I've been waiting for something perfect. And I all of a sudden just thought to myself, you think about the Ponderosa all the time. Why don't you knit it in this super special yarn? Because it's not necessarily a simple design because it's got cables all over the front, but it's not going to hide the beautiful colors. And the sleeves are going to look gorgeous. So I have a few skeins of that in fingering weight. I'm likely to have some left over, so I might even get a camisole or a t-shirt out of the remainder. We'll see how we're going. It's got very fitted sleeves, and like I said, cable all over the front and the back, and it sort of seems to, from the pictures, have like a low-high design where the front is a bit higher than the back, but we'll see. And it also has like quite a scoop neck, so I'm going to have to be a bit careful with how I do that. I plan to sort of make it look and fit like the one that is the green one in the picture that I'm going to put up beside. So that's intended to be done in a 4-ply fingering weight, which is what this is. The yardage needed is 1,504 meters to 3,438 meters. I've yet to make a Will & Pine Designs pattern where I've consumed the entire recommended amount of yarn, but I do have 1,600 meters if I need it. The needles used are 3.5, 3.75 and 4.5 millimeter needles. Gauge is 18 stitches and 29 rows, and there are 9 sizes available from 87 centimeters to 171 centimeters. So again, very size inclusive. And I think I'm going to stick to the ease recommendations of 5 centimeters of positive ease. It does seem to have fitted sleeves but want to be flowy around the body, and that just seems really lovely. Like it would go amazing with some high-waisted pants. Or even a skirt or over the top of a dress. I'll have fun styling that once I've made it. So that brings me to my next thing on my blouses list, and that is called the Lace Hem Tee, and it is by Karina Spencer. And that's a gorgeous little very cropped design that I intend to wear again as like a over dresses type of situation. It's got a cute little thing around the cuff for your thumbs to go in the sleeve holes, and lace around the bottom with like a wide V neck. And I'm going to make it in this beautiful colour by Obsession Yarns, which is Marie again. I showed you the Advent earlier that I bought from her, and that colourway is called Sunset Storm. Now, I just think that is so good. The trouble with so good yarn is you don't want to knit with it because it's so beautiful. Look at all the colours. But then, you know, you have to knit with it or you can't wear it. And it's unbelievably soft. That's in her 80% Aussie Merino, 20% nylon base. And I'm really looking forward to doing that one. Again, this one's been on my list for a long time, waiting for the perfect yarn. So I went hunting and found the perfect, well, what I think is the perfect yarn. Because it's mostly stockinette stitch, I think it will show off the colours incredibly. But I like a little something something on my projects, so having the lace on the bottom and the little thumb hole will be fantastic. I will have to make sure that I make the sleeves long enough so that I don't have to drag it off my shoulders though. So that's intended to be done in a 4-ply yarn, which this is. It says you need 402 to 1,829 meters to complete, so I've got 800 meters here. Needles used 3.75 millimeter needles, and the gauge is 24 stitches and 32 rows, and I already know that I get that gauge with those needles with this yarn, so I don't need to do a gauge swatch because I've knitted some other things in this yarn of hers before at that gauge. There are 7 sizes available, from 76 centimeters all the way up to 167.5, so very size inclusive. It goes down quite small as well as going up quite big. It's intended to be worn with 18 to 25 centimeters of positive ease. Again, I think I'm going to stick down the lower end. I want fitted sleeves and just something floaty around the top so I can wear it with form-fitting dresses. Or maybe not even. Who knows? Again, we'll have fun styling that once I make it. So I'm excited to make the Lace Hem Tee. Now the next one is something very special that came out at the end of last year. And that is the Seashore Blouse by Veronica Lindberg, who's also known as Kurovakika. And I bought the recommended yarn to do this one, which is Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the colour Unicorn Purple. Now, if you saw my last episode, you might remember seeing this and me hinting that I had a plan for this. So I'm electing to make the Seashore Blouse. And I kind of want to make that sometime soon. But I think I need to tick the A1 off my list. Or do I? It's not going to be ready needed until the winter anyway. So maybe I just rip into this. Oh, decisions. Now that I know what I'm knitting, it's really hard to choose what to cast on next. But a little bit about this pattern. It is intended to be DK. So you might be wondering, because this is fingering weight, you hold it double. So I have quite a few balls of this sitting there ready to be held double. It says you need 1,700 to 2,680 meters to complete this garment on a 3 and a 4 millimeter needle. The gauge is 21 stitches and 22 rows, so I think it will go quite fast. And I'm quite quick at knitting lace. I find it goes fast because of all the holes in it. So that could happen faster than I think. There are 10 sizes available in the pattern, from 80 centimeters to 154.5 centimeters across the chest, and it's intended to be worn with 0 to 5 centimeters of positive ease. So I think I'm going to make a smaller size because, one, I know this softens up over time and as you wear it, so it won't matter too much if it is like really fitted when I first put it on, because it does relax throughout the day from the heat of your body. Just like your jeans, when you put them on fresh out of the wash, they're really tight, and at the end of the day, sometimes you find yourself pulling them up because the fabric's relaxed. This does the same thing. So I'm going to be very careful but I'm really excited. As soon as I saw her come out with this pattern, I knew I had to have it. I've just been trying to decide on the perfect yarn, and I decided a light colour for summery vibes needed to be it, instead of a dark purple or a charcoal. But you never know, if I really love it, I could make another set. So that is the Seashore Blouse by Kuruvakika. The next one is Not to be Missed by Rachel Ilsley. Now, I've introduced this pattern to you all on the podcast before if you've watched previous episodes, and this is part of her macrame series where she honoured the look of macrame through knitting and crochet. And again, as soon as I saw this one come across my screen on Instagram, I gasped and I went, I need to knit that. So it comes in a short sleeve and a long sleeve version. I'm going to make a long sleeve version. Now you might remember on my Millie cardigan, you may have seen the Sugar Light by Yeah Yarn, which is this colour that I plan to make my Not to be Missed out of. And you can see the sparkles. It tells you how sparkly the yarn is. It shows up on camera. Because that needed to be something special, and so did the Not to be Missed. So that is a fingering or 4 ply weight pattern. Says you need 507 to 1,351 meters. That depends whether you are making the short or the long sleeve version. So I have this plus 80 grams from leftover from the Millie cardigan, so that should be plenty enough for me to do this pattern. I plan to do the body, and then when I split for sleeves, knit the sleeves, and then just keep going until my desired length, or until I have no yarn left. We'll see whatever happens first. It's knit on 2.75, 3.5 and 4 millimeter needles with a gauge of 21 stitches and 27 rows. And there are 9 sizes available from 87.5 centimeters to 164 centimeters across the chest. It's intended to be worn with 10 centimeters of positive ease. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with this one, but I think I might go for more like 5 or 7. We'll see. That is the Not to be Missed by Rachel Ilsley. So the next category that I have is t-shirts, and the first one that I'm going to do for my t-shirts is the Soft Current Tee by Wool and Pine Designs. You might notice there's a theme and some designers get repeated here a couple of times. This one, again, saw it, had to have it, bought the pattern immediately. And the yarn that I'm going to do it in is this one called Rainy Day Flowers from Dye Stock Yarns that I bought at Woolfest. I bought this with this pattern in mind, so the intention was always there to make this one. I have caked it up already, so that one might be the next cast on just because it will be easy. It's a beautiful cable design over the front and the back, and it doesn't have any sleeves. It's sort of got a knitted in capped sleeve look thing, so I could technically probably wear it as a vest as well. So that is intended to be fingering 4 ply weight yarn. Says you need 567 meters to 1,829 meters, and I think I have just under 800 meters in my hands. It's knit on 3.5 millimeter needles. The gauge is 26 stitches and 36 rows. There are 11 sizes available in the pattern, and it goes from 86.5 centimeters to 188 centimeters across the chest. It's intended to be worn with 15 to 20 centimeters of positive ease. Again, I think I'm going to stick down the closer end with the 15, so I can wear it as a vest over the top of, like, maybe just like this, if it's a little bit cooler in the office but I still want to wear some knitwear. Or I could wear it just as a t-shirt, because as we know, wool is magical and it has amazing cool heat regulation properties. So that is the Soft Current Tee by Wool and Pine Designs. The next one is the Stromboli by Caitlin Hunter, and she goes by Boyland Knitworks, and I plan to make it in this beautiful Silky Bar Lamb by Harley Hooney yarns, which is in the colorway Love Potion number 9. Now that is 50% merino, 50% silk, and I purchased this off Julie and Paul's website, but I love hanging out with them when I go to yarn events, and I've got some more of theirs. I just haven't decided what that's going to turn into, but this one was always intended for the Stromboli. So as you can see from the picture, it is a beautiful flowy cable design with a lot of positive ease in the body, so I figured the silk would be the perfect pairing. It's intended for a light fingering or 3 ply yarn. because of the nature of silk, again, I think it will be fine. I think this is probably more like a true 4-ply, but I think we'll be good. It says you need 802 to 362 meters. So I've got 800 meters here. I plan to make the smaller size, but also I'm not going to be upset if it is cropped, because I wear a lot of high-waisted things and I could wear it over dresses. So it's done on 2.75 and 3.25 millimeter needles, 22 stitches in 32 rows. There are only showing as 6 sizes available. However, it goes from 112 to 185.5 centimeters with intended to be worn 18 to 38 centimeters positive ease. So if we're looking at that, even if you are 94 centimeters across the bust, you're going to make the smaller size and you're going to achieve the 18 centimeters. So if you have a smaller bust size, it just means you're going to have more positive ease and get that beautiful flowy look down the sides. So that is the Stromboli. That's part of her Knitting Italy series. And continuing that theme, the Marittimo is also on my list from her Knitting Italy series by Caitlin Hunter or Boyland Knitworks. And I plan to knit this one in not a purple, would you believe? It is green, and the colorway is Merida, and that's from Dragon Hoard Yarns, and that represents the Disney princess, the Scottish Disney princess. And you might see that it's got some darker lace in the middle, and I plan to use some leftover from another top that I made to go with it. I can't remember the composition of the yarn, but the colorway is Durin, which is inspired by the Hobbit movie. So those two are going to go together to make me a Marittimo. It's intended to be a fingering or 4-ply yarn. I believe the construction is from the bottom up, so that's exciting. Something a little bit different. It says you need 841 to 1,262 meters of yarn. I've got 400 meters here and quite a bit here, so I think that makes up the to get the quantity needed. It's knit in 2.75 and 3.25 millimeter needles, 22 stitches over 28 rows. There are 7 sizes available, 102 centimeters to 149 centimeters, again with 18 to 28 centimeters of positive ease. So it's intended to be worn quite big and large. I don't know if I'm going to go quite so big and large. I might even make the smallest size just so it's more fitted up the top, because that tends to be how I like to wear my t-shirts, which means I definitely should have enough yarn. So that is the Marittimo by Caitlin Hunter. The next one in t-shirts is called Siberica, I think, by Coraline Kerasit. And I intend to make this one out of this yarn by Purple Sprouting, which is the Violet Backed Starling, and it was part of her Birds of the World series from 2023. That was her mystery club, the first mystery club I ever bought. Thank you, Paula. It's intended to be knit in a fingering 4-ply weight yarn. 1,140 to 2,080 meters required, it reckons. I don't think it's going to need that much, but I think that's because the pattern does have a long sleeve version. I've never used more than 2 skeins for a t-shirt for me, and that's what I plan to make. It says you need 3.25, 3.5 and 3.75 millimeter needles, and the gauge is 22 stitches and 30 rows. There are 8 sizes available in the pattern, going from 85 centimeters to 135. So again, not terribly size inclusive, but could be modified. I imagine, looking at the design. Most of it is stockinette with just some lace on the sleeves, and it's intended to be worn with 5 to 8 centimeters of positive ease. So that is the Siberica by Coraline Kerasit. There's 2 more in the t-shirts category, and the first one is the Salty Air by Samantha Guerin. I plan to make this lovely lacy design in some BC Garn Lino, which is 100% linen. And it feels quite scratchy and harsh just in the ball right now. But Alana from Black Cat Knitting Co. and Lupine Wool swears that this gets much softer when you wash it. So we're going to trust the process. And I know from watching other people's podcasts who have knit with linen, if you kind of just beat it up a little bit when you're washing it, it does soften up heaps. I have another sweater that I have knit in a cotton and linen blend, and over its lifespan it has just got softer and softer. So I do believe that's what's going to happen with this lovely purple lino yarn. So it's a fingering or 4-ply weight pattern, which this yarn is. You need 585 to 1,216 meters. I have some more skeins of this. This is just a sample to be able to show you. 3.25 millimeter needles and 3.5 millimeter needles are needed to get a gauge of 24 stitches and 38 rows. There are 9 sizes available from 79 centimeters to 163 centimeters, so a very size inclusive pattern. It's intended to be worn with 5 to 10 centimeters of positive ease. My intention for the method of how I plan to knit this is, because it's a round yoke, I will do the yoke, then I will do the sleeves, and then I will just keep knitting it until I am going to run out of yarn. So I'm not too fussed about the length of this one either. But I am really looking forward to having something in 100% linen just for that experience. Apparently I will need to have hand balm on hand because it does tend to dry out your hands though when you are working with it. So that is the Salty Air Tee by Samantha Guerin. The last one in the t-shirts category is the Cumulus Tee O-Neck by Petite Knit. Now I plan to do this one in something a little bit special. This is my Portal of the Gods Moana colorway from Treehouse Knits, but I also plan to hold it with some of this Lang Paillettes super sparkly yarn that I got for Christmas, and it came from the Crafty Jackalope in Canada. Again, super special yarn, super special yarn. Let's pair them together and make something simple but beautiful. So this design by Petite Knit has been going around every other podcast that I've been watching, and everybody's making one, so why not jump on the bandwagon? I wanted something simple that would show off the beautiful yarn and make it special by having the sparkles. So it's intended to be a fingering or 4-ply weight yarn. You can see a little strand hanging off the ball maybe. This doesn't really have a weight to it. It doesn't add any bulk to it according to other people who've knit with it, so it should be fine to just hold with a fingering weight. It says you need 750 to 1,540 meters of yarn to complete the pattern. It's not on 2.5 and 3 millimeter needles. Now I've done a t-shirt in 2.5 millimeter needles, and in a previous episode I talked about it, and it took forever. So I'm kind of expecting this to end up being the long standing whip type of project where I just pick it up and knit on it when I just don't want to use my brain. Once I get past splitting for sleeves, I imagine. Petite Knit has made an effort to make all of her new patterns size inclusive, and she is going back through her catalogue to modify the older designs to be more size inclusive. So there's 10 sizes available in this one, from 75 centimeters to 105 centimeters, and it's intended to be worn with 4 centimeters of positive ease, so quite a fitted top. So that is the Cumulus Tee O-Neck by Petite Knit. Now I really like my wool camisoles that I have made for myself. They are a staple even throughout summer because of the temperature regulating properties of wool, and they're just so lovely to wear, and I don't get sweaty and awful in them. So I have chosen to make the Alana by Masha Ziablikova. Masha Patterns is her design name. The skein is unfortunately looking a little bit worse for wear because my puppy decided that he really wanted to see what this one was about. But it is another Yeah Yarns. It is a one-of-a-kind that she sort of just dyed up on a whim and popped on her website, and it is a 90% superwash merino and 10% linen. So that's intended to be the Alana. It is, it says it's a bra-friendly pattern, which I'm really excited about because it will hide straps. And it is a cropped design, so we'll see. The plan is obviously just keep knitting until I run out. I have knit myself a singlet in similar, well, not quite style, and got one out of a single skein, so we'll see how we go. This might end up being more like a bralette that I just wear as a over-the-top statement piece with dresses. So it's intended to be a 4-ply yarn, 330 meters to 550 meters, 3.25, 3.5 and 3.75 millimeter needles are used for a 22 stitch gauge over 30 rows. There's 8 sizes available from 79 centimeters to 121 centimeters, so unfortunately not very size inclusive, and I don't know how easy such a complicated pattern would be to modify, but I had real trouble finding something that I wanted to make with that yarn. So that is the Alana by Masha Ziablikova. The next one on the Camisoles journey is the Willow Wisp by Wool & Pine Designs. So this one is a lovely camisole that I've had my eye on for a while. There's two different ways you can do it. One of them has a bobble hem and the other one does not. I plan to do the knot. And I'm going to do some more yarn, this time in the colorway Euphoria. So Caroline dyed this up after watching the TV series, and it's got a whole lot of colors in there and a whole lot of sparkles. But it's also UV reactive. And I sort of felt like a UV reacted yarn probably needed to be in a camisole, because I would be highly more likely to wear this to something like a concert where it gets really warm, and there may be a black light, since I don't really do nightclubs anymore, or school discos. So a bit about that one. It is a fingering weight 4-ply yarn required, 265 meters to 686, and I've got 800 meters here, so I'm definitely probably going to have some left over, but that just means I might have some accessories to go with my camisole. It uses 3.25 and 3.75 millimeter needles with a 20 stitch over 28 rows gauge. There are 11 sizes available in the pattern, 76 centimeters up to 172 centimeters, so very size inclusive, and is intended to be worn with -5 to +5. So you can choose whether you want it really fitted or whether you want it a bit loose, and I'm probably just going to go for 0, because I just want it to sit close to my body without being too tight, but also without being too flowy. So that is the Willow Wisp by Wool & Pine Designs. So the next category is skirts and dresses. So I had so much fun making my skirt last year that I decided I need to make another skirt this year. So I have chosen to make the Seashore Skirt by Veronica Lindberg, or Kuravakika. So that is to go with my Seashore blouse, obviously. So same deal, unicorn purple, knitting for olive silk that I plan to hold double to create the DK weight that's needed for this pattern. It says you need 750 to 1,125 meters. I'm planning to do the short version. There's two different versions of this skirt. One's knee length and the other is quite long. It's done on 3 and 4 millimeter needles, so whatever I get gauge for the blouse I will follow for the skirt so that they look even and they match. 21 stitches and 22 rows, 10 sizes available in the pattern, from 57 to 120 centimeters around the waist. So there are other measurements that you can help you pick your size, because obviously hips and things. But again, it relaxes when you wear it on your body, so you're probably going to have some elastic around the top like I did with my other skirt. It's intended to be worn with 0 to 5 centimeters at ease, and I'm assuming that's around where the bits that cling to your body, like the waistband and your hips. So that will be a fun experience, and then I'm going to have another little set that I can wear wherever I like, but I do plan to wear it into the office. So that's exciting. I will have to get a light coloured slip to go underneath it because I currently only have a black one, but that's okay. Maybe I'll sew something into the skirt. We'll see. Crafting's a journey. We'll get there and we'll figure it out as we go, right? So the other one that I've chosen to do isn't technically a dress. You might remember from a previous episode of my podcast that I wore this purple and orange Luna tee by Carissa, and it is a broken rib, beautiful design that's got a raglan that looks incredible, quite a high neck. It is a t-shirt, but and it's got amazing waist shaping once you get down to the waist. So I plan to just reverse that and do hip shaping and keep going to make a dress. And the yarn that I plan to use is my Advent from Dye Studio 54 from last year. So that's my 2025 Advent. So I'm going to get through 2 Advents. And I love the beautiful autumnal fade that has been created here. So I plan to go through the colours all the way down the body. I'm going to save little bits of the colours so that I can do the sleeves in the same. And if I have enough yarn, I plan to do a long sleeve version because I intend for this to be like an autumn dress. So it is fingering or 4-ply weight, The pattern says you need 558 to 1,536 meters, but of course I'm not making a t-shirt, I am making a dress, and I'm going to try and make a long sleeve version. So we'll see how we go, how far we get. The broken rib I'm hoping will help with the fading, but I also don't mind if it looks stripy. Prepared for both outcomes, very excited to see how it's going to turn out. It's knit on 4mm needles, but when I made my tee, I think I made it on 3.75, so I already know that I have to go down to achieve the right gauge. I picked the right size. Last time I didn't read the bit in the pattern about decreasing the sleeves. I was obviously too excited, so I'm going to pay more attention this time, and I'm going to do a very fitted sleeve. The gauge is 22.5 stitches and 36 rows. There are 14 sizes available in this pattern, from 71 centimeters all the way up to 153 centimeters. Very size inclusive, and it's intended to be worn with 0 to 5 centimeters of positive ease. Now I plan to make like a bodycon style dress, so it will be fitted, so it will be 0 ease for this particular one. So that is the Lunar Tee by Carissa. The next category that I've got is shawls, and it's only got one in it, and it is a Stephen West, and it is the Glittering Snowscape, which is intended to fade through different colours. His examples are gold and silver, but the lady that I intend to knit this for, her favourite colours are green. So I've sort of gathered a bunch of different yarns, and I dyed one to go in between, to fade down into this beautiful pack. The one in the middle isn't as blue as it's showing up. It is a teal by Purple Sprouting. And yeah, the last three have glitter, the first three do not, because I want it to be a little bit special for her. So this particular lady has come to mean quite a lot to me, so I'm going to make her something beautiful and hopefully get it done by probably not her birthday, but maybe it'll be Christmas. It might be again one of those long-standing whips where I just sort of pick it up when I feel like doing something different. But I love all the textures and the different kinds of patterns that are shown in the shawl, so I'm really looking forward to giving a green one a go. So it is fingering 4-ply yarn, obviously, so we have a selection here. The yardage says 1,632 meters. There's definitely more than that here. Needles used are 3.5mm needles. The gauge is 24 stitches over 48 rows, and it comes in one size, which is described as 218 centimeters. So it's one of those beautiful big, you can totally wrap it all the way around yourself shawls. And because it's a shawl, the ease information is not applicable. So that is what I plan to do for my Glittering Snowscapes by Stephen West. Oh, gonna drop it everywhere. Nope, we made it. So I've got a couple of little things in the accessories category, just 2 little items, and both of them are intended to use up some yarn that I have left over from other patterns. The first one on my to-do list is the Snowdrift Mittens by Wool and Pine Designs. Love me some Wool and Pine Designs. And I plan to do it in this leftover yarn that I had from another Wool and Pine Designs project that I made, the 3 Seasons cardigan, from Yarn Therapy. It is the Merlin worsted base, but my other half has knitted a pair of mitts in this, and the worsted in DK wasn't a problem. The difference isn't that huge. But it is a merino and linen base, and the colourway is the Chattering Order of St. Verils. So it says you need 155 to 219 meters. So I used 10 grams out of this 100 gram skein. So I definitely have enough scraps left over. 3.25mm and 3.5mm needles. The gauge is 20 stitches and 30 rows. There's 3 sizes available in the pattern, which is a teen or an adult small, adult medium and an adult large. And there's various measurements provided so that you can pick the right one at different places in your hand. Ease, not applicable. It's meant to be no ease. It's meant to fit your hand quite nicely. And it's a very similar design motif to the 3 Seasons cardigan. So I figured why not make a matching mitten. But obviously I can wear mittens with whatever I like. And it's purple. So that is the Snowdrift Mittens by Wool and Pine Design. The other accessory I have is another pair of mittens that I want to make, and that is the Manitou Mitts by Virginia Sattler-Raymer. And I plan to make it in some leftover Māori that I have from a top that I made a friend. It is a fingering 4-ply weight pattern, so it's lighter, but again a neutral colour so that it will go with anything. It is fingerless mitts. The mittens are intended for like cold winter walking the dog. The mitts are intended for when I'm catching the train into town on a cooler day and I still want the use of my fingers to knit on the train. It says you need 151 to 334 meters. I've got 40 grams here out of a 400 meter skein, so I'm going to assume that it's enough. But if it looks like it's not going to be, I might split it before I start knitting, just so I can gauge how much yarn I've got left as I'm going through the mitts, because I will just make the stuff that goes on your, what is that called? Cuff? It won't be a cuff because it will still be part of the design. Anyway, I'll make it a bit shorter. Knit on 2.75mm needles. This has incredible stitch definition, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how the lace pattern comes out. There's one size written in the pattern, but it says you can adjust the size by changing the needle, and again, ease information is not applicable because it's a mitt. We're on to the last little bit, which is my blankets, and this is also a work in progress, and that is the Nectar by Ysolda Teague. So that is intended to be a baby blanket for a friend. I don't know if I'm going to get it done in time for baby shower, but I'll definitely get it done in time for baby being born. And I am making that, let's get the project bag so I show you both colours. I'm making that out of some Ashford Merino in the colours Mist and Duck Egg, something fairly neutral. It is a 4-ply fingering weight yarn, and there is one of the finished hexagon. You make several hexagons and then you sew them together, and it has a garter stitch border, and that's going to be the garter stitch border. So it comes in any weight yarn, so the pattern is written, you can do it in whatever configuration you want, and it tells you how many pieces you need to make, and it tells you instructions for DK, worsted or fingering. I've chosen fingering because I thought for a baby blanket I love the way that they feel when they're nice and light and lacy. It says you need anywhere between 1097 to 1829 meters to complete the pattern. I don't know if I'm going to have enough for my chosen configuration, but I bought it from a local yarn shop in Lower Hutt, so and Ashford's pretty common. So I'm not going to be terribly upset if I have to buy another ball. And also if it's a different dye lot, I can just make sure the pieces aren't placed in a group and they're separated so it's not as obvious. So because you've got different weights of yarn, you can use either a 3.25, a 4 or a 5mm needle. I'm using double pointed needles, 3.25mm needle. And the gauge is 20 stitches and 40 rows. It goes from baby blanket size to couch throw. You could keep going and you could make it a bedspread for your bed, like, because it's modular, you're not really limited. So that is my Nectar blanket by Ysolda Teague, and what I've done to make sure the hexagons come out all the same size is I have left the pins and the blocking board, so when I've wet it I just stretch the hexagon over the top of the pins, and that way hopefully they'll all come out about the same size, because it's much easier to sew modular pieces together with a long tail and when they're already blocked, because lace is all scrunched up before you block it. So that brings me to the end of my 26 for 26, but I'm really excited to be a little more intentional with my choices since the choices have already been made, but I do still have some room to get excited about something new, and if I have yarn in my stash, great, and if I do not, might give me an excuse to go shopping. But also I'm really stoked that my yarn actually fits now back into my 2 big yarn crates that I have under our coffee table, one for DK and one for fingering. So my down the back of my couch is no longer stuffed full of yarn, so that's exciting. I did have some intention to do some pattern design this year, so there are a couple of things rattling around in my brain, too many in fact. One of those cases of too much to do and not enough time, but I do plan to release a couple more this year. But Thank you very much for taking some time to spend it with me and take a look at what I plan to knit in 2026. And if you tune in for the podcast episodes, you'll get to see them in progress and as finished objects. So if you've seen something here that you like or you're inspired by anything, please, if you could give my video a like, it will make it so that my videos are more visible to other people with similar interests. And if you really want to follow my journey, if you subscribe and hit the bell button, you will get a notification when I post more content. Let me know if there's anything in particular that you're interested in or want to see or want to hear me talk about. I haven't really put the full plan together. I've just got some ideas scratched down on paper for now. But with that, I will sign off in the usual way and wish that your projects always enchant and may your yarn never tangle. And remember, a little magic goes a long way. Happy crafting, everyone.